Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Good Enough Mums Club podcast, where sometimes being good enough is best.
Just before we get started, we sometimes swear like truckers in the podcast. Just in case you've got the little ones with you, you might want to save it for later.
How will I ever be good enough? When will the loneliness fade? When will it fade away? Why does it have to be so tough? Hard as I try, I'll never be good enough.
So I'm Jade Samuels.
And my name is Emily Beecher, and we are the hosts of the Good Enough Mums podcast.
Every week, we'll initiate a mum into the club and explore the complexities and realities of modern motherhood.
You can join the club or find out more about the musical or future episodes of the podcast by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching Good Enough Mums Club. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, rate and review wherever you listen.
This week, we're chatting to the amazingly talented and lovely human Louise Dearman, who is currently playing Esme in the current R&D phase of the show. Now, for those who are not theatre folk, or muggles, as we call them, R&D means research and development phase.
This episode is so intrinsically combined with the show because it was our conversations with mums when we were researching for the show that led us to wanting to share their stories with you. So we were so excited when Louise got on board because she's kind of a big deal in the West End and musical scene, and her voice is so beautiful.
She has played some amazing roles like Glinda and Elphaba in Wicked, not one, which two. She's been in Guys and Dolls, Cats, Joseph and his amazing Technicolour Dreamcoat, and she has sang with the likes of Michael Ball and Lee Mead, as well as the BBC Concert Orchestra and the London Concert Orchestra and the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, just to name a few orchestras. Do you know what I mean?
Let's head over and catch up with Louise at her home in Brighton. We caught up over Zoom bright and early one Friday morning, just as lockdown was starting to think about easing here in the UK. Can you set up for us a little bit sort of where you are physically, existentially, so we have a bit of a background as to sort of where you are right now?
Where are you? I am in Brighton. I live in Brighton. I've lived here for a year. I am a mum of a gorgeous little girl who's almost 3, unbelievably. She's called Willow. And so I'm just absolutely loving it, deciding whether we brave it and go again and have another or just leave that. It changes on the daily. But yeah, I've been in musicals, a long time, 20 years. But since having Willow, I've kind of stepped back a little bit from that and do lots of concerts all over the world, which is wonderful. And try and juggle all the stuff.
All the stuff. We hear you.
Trust
me. Before we get into the heavy questions, we're going to do a quick fire round of Would You Rather. So whatever comes into your head.
Would you rather give up tea or give up wine?
Give up tea. Bye-bye, tea.
It's done.
Bye.
Okay. Which is the best Toy Story? 1, 2, 3, or 4?
1.
Yeah.
Let's go original. 1.
Can you pee in peace?
Yeah, I can.
Amazing.
As long as there's an iPad in the little one's hand and the bribe of a biscuit. Let mummy pee. I think the not pooping in peace is always the worst because you have this fear, you know, when they're that age where they tell everyone everything.
Yeah.
I was in the toilet. My mum was pooing. It was like, great. Okay. I don't poo. People, I don't poo. Don't know what she's talking about.
Maisie used to go up to people in the supermarket and she used to call my period my pyramid. She used to go, Mummy has her pyramid right now. I would just be like,
right now.
She's going to go and die now. Thanks. Okay.
Would you rather get dressed up for a night out or loungewear night in?
I mean, I love both. It's been so long that I've put on anything that's not elasticated. But I do, my favourite thing ever is no matter where I've been, the second I get indoors, it's like all off. Just to all off, get me a massive tie-dye tracksuit on.
I saw your massive tie-dye tracksuit on Instagram.
Oh,
it is wicked.
I don't go out in it, the looks I'd get, but it's the comfiest, coziest thing ever. I do love my comfies. I call them my comfies. And I would just rock around in them all day long if I could.
Okay, favourite space to perform in?
Royal Albert Hall.
It's my favourite space to see things in as well.
Oh, it's amazing. I remember years ago saying, I just want to perform there. I've just got to get there. I've got to do it. And I need to not be blasé about it now, because as soon as, I think the first time was with Michael Ball, and I've done the BBC Proms, I think 5 years, but it never gets boring. I always walk in and it's always mind-blowing. It's brilliant.
Aww. Amazing. Okay. You've got to watch one kid's film forever and ever and ever, every day, Lou. What film are you watching?
That's a really hard question. Do you know, although I know that it would get irritating, but Santa Claus the movie. And I know you're going to go, what? Sorry, you're going to have Christmas in your house every day. I just love that movie.
Aww.
It's like stirs up proper amazing memories. So I think I may regret this choice, but I'm going to go with that.
I love it. A little Christmas magic every day.
Oh, yeah, I'm already irritated. I can't believe I picked that. Marvellous.
Okay, would you rather have an uninterrupted hour of peace, but the house is trashed, or 10 minutes, but she's tidied up?
See, I'm bad at this. I am the one that she can make an absolute mess, but then when she's finished playing with the stuff, it's away. It's gone. I'm a bit like, I can't relax unless it's tidy, but I want to get better at that. So I'm going to say what I feel today, and that is just give me, I don't care if there's piles of stuff around me, give me that hour.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I need an hour. Yeah.
What is your favourite song to sing, Lou? And if you can't choose, give us your top 3.
That is really hard because it changes all the time. So I'll go with one real classic, which would be The Man That Got Away.
Okay.
And usually I would steer clear of that stuff because I'd feel like, do not touch a Judy Garland song. What are you doing? But I did perform it at the proms. It got a lovely response, and I did it with a huge orchestra, and it was amazing to do that. So I'll say that. Then even though it's possibly the hardest song in the entire universe, but everyone watching gets a massive buzz, Defying Gravity.
Yeah.
I think when you do it every single night, you're like, I just can't do it anymore. But when you're away from the show and you do it in a concert setting, it's okay. Defying Gravity. And oh my goodness, I'll do those 2 because I can't possibly pick anymore. There are so many, and it changes depending what mood I'm in and what my voice is doing. If I'm giving it some Barry White, I'll obviously pick a nice slow song. Wake up in the morning with the bass baritone.
I do feel you on Defying Gravity because, like, when I first moved to London when I was 20, we went and saw with the original Wicked cast with Adina Menzel doing Defying Gravity, and I just was a pool of whatever on the floor of Adina Menzel going, so yeah, like it just was.
There's just something. It's so powerful.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's really hard, but it is incredible.
Okay, well, this leads us perfectly into our final question, and probably the toughest one. Glinda or Elphaba?
Do you know, I used to say this was a really hard question, but actually, if I'm being completely honest, Glinda.
Really?
Yeah, because even though it was incredible to do both, and Elphaba's a brilliant role to take on, Glinda was just more suited to me, I think, as an actress, as a vocalist. And also, they're both tough roles, but I didn't feel as much pressure playing Glinda. I felt a massive amount of pressure playing Elphaba. So I just remember, I did Glinda for 2 years and Elphaba for 1. So that's telling you something. I was like, yeah. I don't know how these super women who do it for years on end manage it. But yeah, I'd say Glinda was just a bit more of a less intense time.
That's very interesting.
A bit more of a less intense time. That's good. There we go.
All right then, Lou. What was your journey like to becoming a mum?
I've been with my partner 11 years, Andrew, and we, I suppose, left it, well, it's quite normal these days, but we left it quite late, if you like, to have Willow. But it was definitely a conscious decision. We knew that we wanted to have children, but I guess I kept putting things in the way, really, as far as I knew that jobs were coming up or opportunities were coming up. And so I would say, let's just wait for this because I might get this, and then you'd get that job, and you're putting everything on hold. And I remember it just got to the point where I thought, I'm 37, really do need to think about this seriously, because I remember when I was younger always saying, I'm going to have 2 kids in my 20s. I want my family in my 20s, I want to be young and all of that. But it just didn't happen because of life and work. It just kind of got in the way. So we did leave it relatively late, I suppose. So I had Willow when I was 38. But I personally feel like it was the best time for us, because I feel like we were so ready to make the sacrifices that you do have to make, which you do. I mean, when people say to me, nothing's going to change when I have kids, I'm like, you're nuts. It doesn't mean that your life has to stop. Of course it doesn't. But things do have to change. That's the reality of it. And so I feel like we were prepared to make those changes by that point. And it happened really quickly, which I know we were totally blessed with that, because I know so many friends who struggled with their first, or had, got pregnant quick with the first and struggled with the second. But it happened really quick for us. I was in a musical called Sideshow and playing a Siamese twin with my friend Laura Pitt-Pulford, and I got pregnant. I was really sick in the beginning, so I had to tell her really early on. I hadn't told anyone else. I had to tell her, because I was like, if I'm just feeling a bit like I'm gonna throw, you might need to come with me. But but she was very cool about it. I remember this one bit I had to lay back on this bed, and it was awful because the reflux was real. But yeah, so we get back to the question. We did leave it quite late, but for us it was the perfect time. And in my head, I am still in my 20s, which is always a massive shock when I look in the mirror.
I have exactly the same thing.
It's that question,
lockdown has made it worse.
It's the question you always ask yourself, isn't it? Like I've asked before, in my head, what age did I stop aging? I stopped aging at 27 in my mind. I'm still 27. You're not 27.
Me too, around that age.
Well, I was 32, but, I was glad to be out of my 20s. But yeah, I'm 32 forever.
I mean, I wish. I look back and I'm like, at that time, when I was 27, I was like always moaning about something to do with how I looked. I'm like, now, oh, come on, you look, fabulous, darling. Now it's all melting.
On a side note, I did see Sideshow when you did it, and I watched the one where the man asked the woman to marry him at the end of the performance. Do you remember that performance?
You're joking. Yeah, I do.
I did, yeah.
We were all really excited.
I can imagine.
We're all like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Because at first we were like, oh, that's a bit cheesy. But then when it actually happened, we were all like in floods of tears. Like, this is amazing. Yeah, it was a really special show. I loved that it was in such a teeny venue and very intimate. And I think for the story, it was great to see people's faces and reactions and emotions, to see it in their eyes.
Yeah, we took Ray and someone was climbing over. You guys climbed over the back of the set, and someone went over it and Ray went, Mum, what's going on? But it was so good.
Yeah, so, I loved it. But yeah, so I was pregnant then.
What do you think the hardest thing about motherhood is for you?
I'm not going to be one of those annoying women who says it's not hard, because it is really hard. But I feel like for the most part, I'm waiting for the shift, but we've had it pretty easy with Willow. As a baby, she slept brilliantly. And I just remember thinking when I was pregnant, that was what I was worried about the most. I was thinking, I'm not going to be good without sleep. Like, I feel like, as everybody does, a completely different person. If I haven't had enough sleep, I don't know how I'm going to cope with being a mum. I don't know how I'm going to do my day-to-day things. In my head, I was still going to work. So I was like, how am I going to work and have a baby if I'm really tired? So sleep was a massive worry, which is ridiculous. But when she was a baby, she slept really pretty well. So I didn't have to worry about that. Now she's a toddler. She wakes up every single night, but I still manage somehow to get back to sleep. I just climb into bed with her. But I think the hardest thing is the comparisons and the worry that you're not doing what's best, or you think you're doing what's best. You know that as a mother. You're like, I know I'm a good mum. I know I'm doing what's best. But then you, especially with social media and things like that, you just see things and hear things, and it starts to play on your mind, and you worry whether the decisions you're making are the right ones. So I think that's been the hardest thing for me, really, being confident enough to know that what I'm doing is best for my kid, and not worry about what everyone else is doing and what paths they're taking. And also the constant kind of worry Like even in the playground, I'm like, don't go up there, you're going to hurt yourself. It's just little things and those things that go through your head about just constant worrying. So I don't know what she's going to be like when she's a teenager, what I'm going to be like when she's a teenager. So yeah, I feel like, yeah, it's the kind of comparisons and not feeling like you're in a competition with other mums, and just taking a bit of a step back and say, this is our family bubble. This is me as a parent. This is how we do it, and being 100% comfortable with that.
Do you think the fact that she slept well is one of those things that's hanging over your head while you think about, do you have a second?
Yeah.
Is that the decision?
Yeah, because I was talking to Andrew about it recently, because we are, I'm 41 now. So I'm like, that is late, really, to be having a baby. And whether we can or not, I don't know. But I just said, at the minute, it's a nice balance. We're doing okay. I woke up, once a night, sometimes twice, last night 3 times. But it's okay. It's just a quick, I'm here, lay back down, just goes back to sleep. But I try to imagine myself doing that whole every couple of hours feeding and a crying baby, and whether the baby will be completely different to Willow, which he or she well may be. I mean, Andrew did not sleep through the night until he was like 5 or something insane like that. And I was like, oh, you beast. If our child does that, it's all on you. Because I was a dream. But yeah, so I do worry. But then again, I think to myself, oh, if you're going to do it, just try and go with it.
Yeah.
And see. But yeah, it's part of me can see how wonderful it would be to add to our family. And then part of me thinks, but we've got such a lovely little setup here. Is that rocking the boat? Is that going to ruin it? But in the same way that when we were thinking about having a baby, I worried about, will I ever get another job? Will I get back into what I want to do? Am I going to be employed because I'm a mum? All of those worries. I think once I was pregnant, I stopped worrying, because then it's out of your hands. And nothing did change, apart from shows, which was my choice not to go up for lots of shows. But yeah, I think sometimes you just need to stop worrying and just go with it. What will be, will be.
Agreed.
So what do you think, now that you've got the baby, are your biggest expectations on you as a mother?
I think there are lots of expectations on all of us mums. I think we're all getting a lot better at being honest and open and talking. I remember in the really early days, the group of NCT mums, we had a little WhatsApp group, and, we were all new to this. So you're all just throwing ideas around. It's lovely. And you feel like you've got this nice little support network of people who understand. But as people start developing their little routine and things like that, little things start to creep in that just make you question and doubt. The biggest thing for me actually was the expectation of just being able to breastfeed, and I couldn't. And that was horrible. That was actually the most negative time, and that feeling of, why can't you, especially in the hospital, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I had quite a traumatic birth with Willow, a cesarean emergency C-section that went a bit scary. And so I was in hospital for a while afterwards, and then in quite a bad physical way for a little while. So just being able to sit up and pick her up was impossible. I had to press buttons, be helped to sit up and things. But still, she was placed on me to try and breastfeed. I remember her bottom being here and she was coming across here because I couldn't sit up, and her just being on there forever and it killing, and she would come off and still be sucking. And so I was worried she wasn't getting enough. So they would give a bit of formula. And I remember I just kept trying, but also topping up with formula. And the breastfeeding specialist was coming round to chat. And I just remember it was the first time someone had been quite harsh with me, that everyone else had been really understanding that I wasn't in a good way, and just do what you can and it's fine. And she was the first person that said, well, what are you doing as far as feeding? And I explained it, and she said, well, you need to, I think she said something like, you need to make a decision. Are you formula feeding? Are you breastfeeding? You need to make a decision. And I turned from being very emotional to really angry. And I just said, I remember saying to Andrew, just tell her to get out. Just tell her to get out. I'm not dealing with this now. You have no idea how much pressure I'm already putting on myself. I'm watching all these other women in the room breastfeeding their babies. And, sometimes it was hard, and sometimes they had to get some help. Sometimes it was completely natural. But yeah, that was that expectation of just being able to do that, and the WhatsApp group with the NCT women, all breastfeeding except for me. It just didn't happen. The milk just didn't come in, so I couldn't do it. And until I really understood that and realised it and gave myself a bloody break and just went, I need to stop. And Andrew was completely supportive with that. And he just said, yep, stop, let's do it. It's just, doesn't matter. She's going to be fine. But then I felt like I just kept having to justify why I wasn't breastfeeding. I constantly felt like I needed to say, oh, she's on the bottle because no milk came in. I couldn't, it wasn't my fault kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what I found really lovely is one of my friends said, I didn't want to breastfeed, so I didn't. I took the tablets to stop the milk. And I thought, I ain't judging you. I'm like, you do what you want. Because actually, when lots of my friends who were breastfeeding started to struggle or started to find the swap really difficult, I have to say we were having quite an easy time because I had Andrew to help to feed as well. But yeah, it's the guilt, that expectation of you just being able to do something that's meant to be really natural. And you feel like, oh my God, am I less of a woman because I can't breastfeed my baby? Why is it not happening?
Yeah.
So I'd say that was the biggest thing. Everything else I'm pretty confident with, like her feeding and how I bringing her up as far as, manners and things like that. I've always spoke to her like she's a little adult. But I think it works. She kind of listens to me and we have full-blown conversations. So she's not even 3. But yeah, the breastfeeding thing was, if I see anything that's negative about even somebody who is breastfeeding and they're getting stick for doing it in public and all of that, the hackles come up on my back. Because I'm like, in the same way that if someone wants to do that, wherever the hell they want, that's the most natural thing in the world, they are feeding their baby. And the women who don't breastfeed should not be looked at like we are feeding our babies poison by giving them formula. So yeah, I'd say that was the biggest struggle that I had.
Interesting. It is tough. In my family, I'm the only one who's ever breastfed really on my mum's side. And it's interesting because they literally just say, I don't want to, thank you. I would like to have a drink as soon as I've had this baby, as and when I want. And I think fair play. Why can't we be more honest like that and say, I've just spent 9 months giving my body over to somebody else. I think I'd quite like it back. There's no, like you said, Lou, we shouldn't judge people for doing it.
No, definitely not. And I just feel like it's sometimes looked upon as if you are doing something bad if you don't. Like it's not just whether you can or you can't, or you choose not to, or you choose to. It's like if you don't breastfeed at all, it's like you don't care about your child.
Yeah.
You don't care about their well-being and their health. And that's what I just found really stressful and really upsetting. But yeah, it's each person's choice and everyone has a reason as to why they do or don't. I mean, listen, I would have loved for it to have come naturally to me. And if it would have been difficult, but I could get help and do it, I would have done that. But it just wasn't happening. I think I would be on a pump for 45 minutes and get 12 millilitres.
Oh, God.
And it just got to the point, I was like, that is just heartbreaking. You'd lift it up and go, are you joking? So, yeah.
And it's a shame they don't say, this is obviously really hard. Like, here are some options, but that's not what they say. They keep pushing you and pushing you and pushing you.
But it was weird that it just got to the point where I was no longer upset about it. And I just got really cross with this woman, just went, you just need to leave, because it was just her tone. I'd had enough already. I was like, I'm trying here, love.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck off. Thanks.
Yeah. In a word.
Can you tell us how you got involved with the Good Enough Mums Club?
Yes, I actually, it was a year ago. I think it was before Christmas. Yeah. And Hannah Chiswick, wonderful woman, brilliant director who I worked with on Sideshow, called me. I was in the car, actually. I was on the way to a concert, I think. And she explained the project to me and said, I just feel like it's your cup of tea. I feel like you'd really like to do it. And instantly I was like, yes, I'd love to do it. When? And then she reeled off the kind of dates. And it was that scenario where I had taken on a lot for the next few months and it was a crazy time. And I found being a mum, if I took on too much, I wouldn't enjoy it. And I would just my brain would just go, pfft, and I'd get really stressed and upset. So I said, I feel like that is just going to be too much to add that. And I was really genuinely disappointed because I thought, well, that's going to go away because whoever else does it will end up taking it further. And And then during lockdown, when we were all in this miserable place of what's happening to our beautiful industry. I'm not doing anything apart from drinking gin and eating too many carbs. And Hannah called back and just said, it's happening again. It's going to be on Zoom, but we're going to work with everybody on Zoom, do some recordings, just, kind of get it moving forward. What do you think? And it was literally like a little blessing, because recently I've decided I'd love to do another show. I'm working on one now, obviously, but it has to be the right one. And that I've quite enjoyed that, becoming a mum. The decisions are made easier, I think, because now I have to say it has to work. It has to work with me being a mum. I have to be fully prepared to commit to it and really want to. So it can't be anything I'm not bothered about. And everything about the show, the way that there are the funny things that we all share and we love to chat about as mums and as parents, the things that we all really struggle with. And I think it tackles some really serious and important issues. And there's something very empowering about it. And also I could see how wonderful it would be for groups of mums, especially, to go and watch and to feel like they're part of a sisterhood. Because very often we're put up against each other as women and as mums. And I think it's wonderful when these things come about that make you feel like you're part of a group and you have a safe place, a safe zone to talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about, to not feel judged, to understand that none of us are perfect. So Good Enough Mums Club was, it's been brilliant to work on. And what I've also loved is sharing things with my friends who aren't actors, who aren't in the industry, and saying, check out these lyrics. And I'd sing on the WhatsApp group like a little bit. Like only my nose is the same, and absolutely love it, because we all think those things and sometimes we just don't say it. And so I think it's brilliant to do that. So that's how it's happened. And I was sold by Hannah Chiswick. She sold it to me, and I'm very, very glad that I'm doing it.
Oh my God, we were so excited. I think there was some major squeeing going on. And my daughter, especially, Maisie, was like, oh my God, Elphaba, Glinda, oh my God.
I'm doing it green. That's okay, isn't it? I'm going to
of course, totally.
I think also people expect, and a producer said this to me once, actually, I think about 2 years ago. He said, I didn't think you'd want to audition for this because I thought you'd only be interested in the kind of big budget, big West End shows, year contract, that kind of thing. And I was like, no, actually, it's the opposite these days. I want to do something that I know that I really want to be part of, whether it's, and not just for financial reasons, because creatively it's something I want to do, but also something that doesn't make me feel instant stress and pressure. Like very often a big show will come in and I know that it's going to be a year and I'm interested in the project, but it's just not enough. I'm not interested in it enough to commit for that time and energy to it. But
because you're committing the juggle, aren't you? You're committing to a year's worth of juggling.
Yeah.
Childcare, time, travel, all of those things.
Yeah. And actually lots and lots of West End shows these days as well. Like I heard that one show's doing like 2 shows Saturday, 2 shows Sunday. So I said, actually, that is time with my partner gone.
Yeah.
Because every evening, he leaves early in the morning, every evening is out. Saturday and Sunday is our time as a family. Saturday I can cope with because that's what shows do. They have 2 shows on a Saturday. So it's about, I understand why people want to do it and I understand why people have to do it. That's the reality of it. People have to earn money and work and also want to be part of a massive, beautiful, brilliant show. I get it. But like I said earlier, priorities change. And so when I hear of something that A, I want to do for personal reasons, and B, it fits in with my life, then it's win-win. And also, weirdly, and this is another reason, I was like, oh, it's like a sign in a cheesy way, but I've been working on mum projects. Like I have recorded a Lullabies album, which will be released soon. And I've loved doing that because for once, I'm not just going in, bashing out big belty show tunes and feeling like there's an expectation there for me to do the big songs. I've just sat in the studio and just acted like I was singing to Willow.
Aww,
and it's just been a really therapeutic experience. And I've loved it. And I've written a children's book as well that I want to start working towards hopefully getting published, and just lots of things that bring me so much joy and that marry being a performer and a mum together. And then this came along and I was like, oh my God, it's like 3 things. They come in threes.
I love as well that in rehearsals, so we had a rehearsal the other day, Verity, our arranger's daughter, had wet herself, so she says there's pee-pee on the floor, and as we looked over to the corner of Louise's screen, Willow was having a wee on the potty, and we all cheered up. We was like, yeah. Then Ray came in, knocked over my tea, and it was all going. It was like, wow, this is like the most chaotic, amazing rehearsal room I've ever been in my life.
Yeah, right. But also, it's usually you'd be stressing out and freaking out about having your child. I mean, Willow was ill. She was meant to be at nursery, but she had a cold, so I couldn't send her in. But it was just to not worry about that, not worry about having your kid in the room, like you have to apologise for having your kid in the room, was brilliant. I mean, I remember
that was the best rehearsal ever.
Yeah,
amazing,
hands down the best rehearsal I've ever been in.
And to see everyone's kids as well, you just, you know, it was really lovely. But I was saying to you guys, I remember rocking up to a rehearsal for Magic at the Musicals at the Royal Albert Hall, and I'd never met the producers before, and I remember getting on the train with Willow. My friend was meeting me the other end to just take her off for an hour while I did my rehearsal. And my friend called me while I was on the train and said, I'm so sorry to do this, but I've had a call about doing a voiceover. I have to do it. And I couldn't find anyone else to have her. And the panic, walking into a rehearsal room with a producer I've never worked with my baby attached to my front. But then 5 minutes before I went in, I just thought to myself, what can you do? What are you going to do? Are you not going to go to the rehearsal? You have no choice. You just have to hope that they understand you're a human being. You had something in place and it went tits up. So let's just go with it. But they were so understanding. And she literally slept through me singing Defying Gravity. So yelling in her ears. I was like that. Poor little ears. So yeah, it's, you know, we need to be giving ourselves a bit of a break.
Completely. Do you have a favourite moment in the show then?
I think I have a few favourite moments. There are some moments that you wouldn't kind of expect. Like there are many funny moments, which I love because they're things that you really relate to.
Yeah.
So the moments where your kids are kind of just all going nuts and I love the bits where the kids turn into the little adults. And then it's like Boss Baby. And they're all just like, well, this is a disaster. I can just see how funny that will be for people watching. I love those moments. I love the moments where this group of women who are so different and have very different ways of parenting can all still come together, support each other for something that seems so like a little play group. It seems so unimportant from the outside, but the way that they all need it. I love that they come together when it's in danger. They all come together to save it because it's not just a little place for their kids to run around for half an hour. It's a place for them as human beings and as mums to come together and talk. So I love moments like that. But then you've got WTF, Up for Kids TV. That song cracks me up because Kids TV is wonderful because you sit and you're like, oh, it gives me a little break to have a cup of tea. But then you're like, what the actual fuck is that? This is driving me nuts. It's ringing in your head. So yeah, there are loads of elements about the show that I love. Esme, the character that I play, obviously it's a tough one because she is experiencing postpartum psychosis and it's something that I have not experienced and I can't imagine going through that. So having to speak to people and read about it and try to understand how on earth that would feel has been a real challenge. But again, it's something that we've got to talk about and not fear how we would be judged if we say that out loud. So there are so many elements of the show that I just think are wonderful and hugely important. And also I get an epic song.
We actually have a sneak peek of Lou singing Price to be Paid that we're going to share with you guys right now. So here you go.
The shadow infringes and darkness descends. I feel like the only one, can't talk to my friends, can't pick up the phone. Am I the only one? The one all alone?
So I do get to belt.
Lou's song is a weird one because I think we'd already written like 2 or 3. We'd written the funny songs, I think, by that point, and we didn't sort of have something. And I was having a really rough night, and I had this horrible headache, and I went to sleep, and I just couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, and I woke up at 2:00 in the morning, literally grabbed a pen and paper and like scribbled something down, and then fell asleep into the deepest sleep and sort of woke up at 9 a.m. and looked at the lyrics and just sent them straight to Chris, our composer. And I was like, yes, that's it. And it was so many things that I'd been thinking about with my own postnatal depression, but just generally being a mom. And we'd had a workshop. Lou's song is called The Price to be Paid. And we'd had this workshop, and there was this woman in it, and she was a journalist. And we were saying, like, what did you not expect? And she said, I didn't expect the price that I'd pay. She said, she's like, my passport is still in my desk at the office, but I will never make another 2 a.m. dash to the office to pick up my passport and fly into a war zone, because I just couldn't do it to my kids.
Yeah.
She said, I've never had an incident. I've never been hurt. I've never done that. But how could I put myself in that position? But that was my identity for 15 years.
Yeah.
And it's gone. And it was just such a powerful statement. And then the different women started talking about different things like, you know, my relationship with my body is totally different, or, you know, my body is so changed, I don't think I'll ever get that back. And it just really hit me that we all have things. We all have a price that we pay for being a mother, and we do it willingly and we do it lovingly. But what she said about, like, I can't do that to my kids, your priorities, your choices change. So I guess what's valuable to you changes so much.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so that was that's where the title and the main lyric came from. But it was one of those things that I literally woke up in the middle of the night, scribbled down. And I think we changed a few things, but not much else.
No, I love it. And I also feel like, even though I love being a mum so much, and I'm obsessed with my daughter, could just sit and stare at her for hours. And you go through, I think many of us can be accepting of the changes to every element of our lives from having a child. There are some days when I'm like, I don't care that I have a little pouch down there where I had a C-section. I'm a mum. It like brought me the most amazing human being. And then I have a day where I just feel so crappy about it and feel quite monstrous. And that's quite an extreme word, but feel monstrous about it. And it just, you know, sometimes you feel like it's a small price to have paid. And then other times you feel like it's huge. I didn't realize it was going to be this huge. So I just feel like we all at some point just feel that way. I just feel like I actually didn't realize. I underestimated what a huge change this is. Mostly for the better. Sometimes just the reality that it's really hard. And like you said earlier, kind of feeling a bit, and I did go through that phase, even though Willow was 8 weeks old and I did my first job, I flew out to Vienna, and it was such a mistake because I wasn't ready. Mentally, I was not ready. Physically, I wasn't really ready. And I remember just being not me that whole time and crying a lot, and them trying to squeeze me into this designer dress, and me just feeling like a big sack of shit. Just feeling like I feel like a big sack of potatoes and you're trying to squidge me into this. And I remember the producer saying, I really want you to wear it. I need you to wear it. And I just cried in my room. She was like, oh my God, you don't have to wear it. It was just this intense, can't do this. Why am I doing this? And Willow wasn't with me because it was like 3 days and I wasn't breastfeeding. I just said, why don't you just go and I'll have Willow at home? And again, it was that I need a reality check here. Actually, what's important, I need to be there. I wasn't quite ready. Hard, very, very hard.
Yeah. Last question. My goodness, we're flying through. So, you know, as soon as you have a child, you become like mum. So the hospital, they're always like, so you're mum. And when you go to nursery, you're just mum, or Willow's mum, and you don't have your name anymore. So what would you like to be known outside of being Willow's mum or being mum?
That is a really good question. I think I feel like a little pride when Willow says, Mummy does singing. Like, I quite like that because I think it's quite, not in a kind of showy offy way, yeah, I'm a singer, I'm an actress, but in a kind of, what a silly job. Then she says, Mum, what does your mummy do? My mummy does singing. My mummy plays professional dress up. But I think I've always been quite envious of those women in those families where the mum is, and I'm not cool at all, but I would really like to be the kind of mum where, you know, the teenagers don't mind just hanging out at that house. Or they'll be like, let's go around Willow's house because it's quite a relaxed vibe. And I'd quite like to be that kind of mum that, this is me thinking I'm stuck in my 20s, Jade. You'll be like, yeah,
27
yeah,
forever.
I am. But the kind of mum that they could chat to, they could have a chat to and feel like that's a little safe place. I'd really like that environment rather than, you know, sometimes you have that very much, that so-and-so's mum and it's that teacher-student vibe.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to be really polite. Obviously, you've got to be polite. But yeah, I would love for them to go, let's go around to Willow's house because that's a cool place to hang out and her mum's all right.
Yeah.
Not her mum will let us drink 2020 in the garden and smoke that. not that relaxed.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Just like I feel like I could chat to her mum. She's all right. The singing mummy who plays professional dress up who I can have a chat to if I want.
That isn't a bad call, Lou.
I was just going to say that is an amazing call. I want that person as my friend.
I was going to literally.
So won't happen. They'll be like, we ain't going around there. She's nuts.
I think it's the whole, like at the minute, I don't know if you feel this, like Ray is so devastated by me all the time at the moment. She's going to be 10 in a couple of weeks and she doesn't find me cool at all.
No.
At all. I am not cool. She looks at me. She's just like, you're pathetic. What are you doing? And I'm just like...
I am cool, babe.
Literally, like, so as I park up at the school gates in my crop tops or whatever, she looks at me, she goes, no one else dresses like that. Why? I'm like,
I would if I could.
Because I can. That's why, Ray.
Exactly, Ray. Yeah. Oh, I would be out there in all the lycra if I could.
Not a bit, all of it.
All of it. Every single thing I'm wearing is like tight. But no, I'm the one in like the tent.
Yeah, Maisie doesn't. I think Maisie wants me to be cooler than I think I'm capable of, actually, because she's like, "Come do a TikTok dance with me," and I'm just like, "Oh my god, it's the worst, most embarrassing thing I could ever imagine." And she's like, "No, Mom, let's do one together."
Oh,
and I'm just like, "Oh," and you know what? And it's something that I need to get over for myself because I should be saying yes to that.
Yeah.
I should be like, actually, your daughter's asking you to.
Yeah, she's asking you. She wants you to be a part of it.
So then you should do that with her. But there is a moment where I'm like, oh my god.
I'm dreading that time when I'm just not nice to not nice, but not cool to hang out with anymore. Like we have such fun together now, and the minute she's like, "Oh, can you just back off a bit?" That's gonna break my heart. Like the other day, she was practicing her little letters, and I went, "That's brilliant. That is really good, baby girl." She went, "I'm not your baby girl." And I was like, "Do you know how much you have just crushed me? Do you even get it? That is." Yeah, I was like, don't ever say that. And now she says to me, don't ever say that. Sometimes I'll say things to her. But yeah, I was like, you always be my baby girl. Yeah, I hope she still wants to hang out with me. I have this idea that, you know, when she's a teenager, we'll be going out for, you know, little champagne cocktails and dinners together. And Andrew was like, you're having a laugh. She will be nowhere to be seen.
I'm hoping that happens, but I did the TikTok dances on a walk and she goes, just stop, we are in public. That was her exact response.
Oh, I'm not allowed to sing in public. I was singing
We are in public
the other day and she was like, just stop. I can sing, you can't. Like, okay.
If I get a bit belty, Willow doesn't like it. She's like, Mummy, stop. I'm like, all right. I could do a little soft lullaby, but when I go to really open up and let rip, she's like, Mummy.
No, but you do have that moment where she's like, you're in public, why are you doing this? I said, I get paid to do this in public all the time. Why? It doesn't bother me. You're getting this for free, girl.
To hear this. Yeah. I think I said that to Willow once. I was like, people pay for that. They will pay for me to belt in their faces. Think yourself lucky.
Finally, Lou, can you tell us where all our mums can follow you on socials to keep up to date with your children's books and your lullabies CD and everything else that's been released?
I am on Twitter at Louise Dearman, And my Instagram is at Louise_Dearman, because someone stole Louise Dearman.
How dare they?
How dare they? But yeah, I must get better. I will get better at posting things. But yeah, I look forward to posting much more about this and the Lullabies album and everything mummy/performer related.
And that was the wonderful Louise Dearman. You can follow her on socials by searching Louise Dearman on Twitter and Instagram.
And don't forget, you can join the Good Enough Mums Club too by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching Good Enough Mums Club. We'd love it if you would hit that subscribe button for the podcast, rate and review wherever you choose to listen. And if you know a mum who might like this, please do tell them about it.
If the stories in this podcast resonated with you or made you think or even just reassured you that you're doing okay as a mum, you're going to love the episode that we've got coming up next. It's a chat with a fellow podcaster and mum, dope black mum to be precise, Karina White.
Thanks so much for listening. Catch you next time. Bye.
How will I ever be good enough? When will the loneliness fade away? When will it fade away? Why does it have to be so tough?